Yo, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Albion video. Today we're going to be going over my top 5 best corrupted dungeon builds that I have found work pretty decently. Number 1 actually surprised me the most, and number 2, I didn't think I was going to return to them. If you guys watched my videos, then you might know what I'm thinking about. But I compiled these builds. It took some time and effort, it took some consideration. I gathered the pros, the cons, the neutrals, just everything about the builds that I'm going to be showing you guys, and I hope that you can actually utilize it to its full potential. Most of them, actually no, all of them are pretty simple to pick up and actually use, so I hope that you guys enjoy, and let's jump straight into it. Starting off, we have the One-Handed Spear. Now, I used to go this build very early in the days, but I have realized that there are much better options out there. For the build itself, you're going to go Hunter Hood with your third spell and your second passive. You're going to go Mage Robe with your third spell and your first passive. You're going to go Soldier Boots with your second spell and your second passive. As for the Spear, you're going to go Spirit Spear, which is your second Q, Forest of Spears, which is your first W, and you're going to go the first passive. And for your offhand, you're going to go Mistcaller for the cooldown rate. Now, for your potion, I would recommend using a Major Poison Potion, and for your food, I recommend a Beef Stew. And for your cape, I recommend a Thetford cape because of the electrifying effect. So pretty much the tactic is as follows. You activate your Spirit Spear 3 times, which is going to decrease your energy a little bit, but nothing too serious. And if you're near your enemy, you're immediately going to use your Reckless Charge, which is your E ability, which is going to deal around 600 damage and throw them up in the air for 0.6 seconds. After this, you're immediately going to unleash your Forest of Spears, and then you're going to wait for the Reckless Charge's 18-second cooldown, during which time you're going to activate your Spirit Spear 3 more times so that you can deal that damage again with your E. And this should kill your opponent. Now onto the pros and cons of this build. The pros is that it can deal a lot of damage very, very quickly if you know how to hit your CCs and if the opponent doesn't disappear or something like that. And you also need to use your Purge and your Retaliate when you're in the fight. That is very, very important. But that's one big pro of this. And if you know your positioning, and if you know how to position in a corrupted dungeon and where to position in a corrupted dungeon, you're going to be a beast and you're going to be well, not unstoppable, but you're going to be close to it. The obvious con of this build is the cooldown of your E ability, which is 18 seconds. And since it deals 600 damage, that is going to be your biggest damage dealer. And if you cannot use that ability for 18 seconds, you're going to want to find a place or some kind of strategy to run around and wait for that cooldown to finish so that you can actually deal more damage again and kill your opponent. This is why it's in number 5. Moving on to 4th place, we have the bow build. For your helmet, you're going to go Hellion Hood with your third ability and your second passive. For your chest piece, you're going to go Merc Jacket with your third ability and your second passive. And for your shoes, you're going to go second ability and second passive. For the bow itself, you're going to go Multi-Shot, which is your first Q. You're going to go Ray of Light, which is your first W. And you're going to go the first passive. For your potion, I recommend using a Major Poison Potion. And for your food, I recommend using a Beef Stew. Now, this you're also going to pair with a Thetford cape. So for the strat, there's really only one that I can think of off the top of my head, and it's what I usually use when I go with the bow. You're going to start off with your W, which is going to freeze your target in place for 2.5 seconds. You're immediately going to activate your E and your Smoke Bomb. Your Smoke Bomb comes from your Hellion Hood. Your E is going to give you 6 enchanted arrows on your first activation. You're going to fire those straight into the target until they are gone, after which you're going to dash with your E, which is going to give you 4 more arrows, which you will shoot into the target. If he tries getting close to you, you're just going to press your Q and send him to Brazil. When you're getting low on health, I recommend using your Bloodlust and gaining some health back. But this is pretty much it. You just continue doing this and you're going to be just fine. So onto the pros and cons of this build, shall we? The pro is that you're going to abuse your victim. Literally, you are going to CC chain him to hell. You're going to press your W, which roots him in place for 2.5 seconds. You're going to press your Q, which just literally is a get away from me button. And when you press your W, as I said, you just press your Smoke Bomb, and there is a shit ton of damage right there. And you activate your Poison Potion in the middle of that, you're set. The thing is, it is heavily reliant on you actually being able to hit your CC and the target not disappearing. You have to be in the proper place for it to happen. You have to keep your distance. So if you're much more of a melee fighter, this build is not going to be for you, which is our main con in this build. However, I still encourage you to use it because it is an extremely fun build. In third place, we have the also famous Deathgiver's build that I actually did a video on, like a YouTube Shorts on. If you guys would like to check that out, it's on my channel page. For your helmet, you're going to go with a Fiend Cowl with your third ability and your first passive. For your chest, you're going to go Merc Jacket with your third ability and your first passive. For your shoes, you're going to go with Scholar Sandals with your second ability and your second passive. For the Deathgivers themselves, you're going to go with your second Q, your first W, your first E, which is your only E, and you're going to go with your second passive. For your food, we're going to stick with what is literally in every single one of these builds, a poison potion and a beef stew, and you're going to go with a Thetford cape literally in every single one of the builds. Now the strat is pretty similar to the one-handed spear, except you're going to have to hit your Qs on the target in order to get a stack. So you're going to use your Q, which is going to give you a small circle that you're going to have to place your enemy inside of, and that is going to apply a Assassin Spirit charge. Once you've gathered 3 Assassin Spirit charges, you're going to use your Ghost Strike, which is your E, which is going to deal 663 magical damage, and it turns you invincible for 1 second. The really cool thing about this is that it also reduces the cooldown if you have 3 Assassin Spirit charges. Therefore, you can literally one-shot an opponent or two-shot an opponent if they are, let's say, below 50% health. All right, so on to the pros and cons of the Deathgiver's build. For the pro, it deals massive amounts of damage. Your E literally refreshes its cooldown when you have when you have 3 Assassin Spirit charges, and you can reuse it twice to deal 1,300 damage almost on a 5.2 Deathgivers. And another pro is that you are also a nuisance to deal with because you're just there on their tail with your boots and with your Q and with your E. You're literally on them every single second. Even when they go invisible, right after they come out of invisibility, you either dash in with your E if you want to waste it and they're low enough, or you dash in with your Q, you go in with your boots. It's crazy, like you're literally on their tail. The con of this build, however, is that you actually have to hit your Qs. Because it's such a small circle that you can hit it in, you have to be literally on them and you have to be breathing the same air as they are. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. Another con, I think, would be positioning. Because if you are stuck in places where there are a lot of ramps and edges and corners, you are going to have to be in the line of sight of the enemy in order to actually hit your Q, to hit your E, to hit your W. Your W can actually go over walls, but that's not your main damage dealing ability. So you have to be in the correct position to hit your E, to hit your Q, and that's also a con. But it's kind of balanced. It's kind of why I put it at number 3, but you will see why there are 2 above this in just 1 second. In second place, we have the build that actually got me through Hellgates back in the day, in like 2021 when I used to play Albion online, the Claymore build. For this, you're going to want to go Mage Cowl with your third ability and your first passive. For your chest, you're going to go Cleric Robe with your third ability and your first passive. And for your boots, you're going to go with the third ability and the second passive on Guardian boots. Now for the Claymore itself, I recommend going the first Q, which is Heroic Strike, your first W, which is Blade Cyclone, and your first passive. And of course, you're going to want to pair it with Beef Stews, Poison Potions, and a Thetford cape. Now the strat is pretty simple. You just have to be on your enemy at all times. You have to hit your Heroic Strike 3 times, which applies 3 heroic charges. After that, you're going to want to dash through them with your Blade Cyclone, dealing some damage. And then you're going to want to do your charge, which will deal 859 damage. What you can also do, since the Blade Cyclone's cooldown is 12 seconds, you can start with your Blade Cyclone, be on them with your Heroic Strike, activate your Giant and your Everlasting Spirit, which will then give you some buffs, and it's going to make you a lot more resilient in the fight. And then you can stack up your Heroic Strike or your Heroic Charges, which only have a 3-second cooldown, so that's going to take you 9 seconds to do so. And then you dash away with your W again, and then you hit your charge. Now the truth is, for second and first place, I don't really have a lot of cons. The only things that I can think of for this one is that you have to constantly stay on your enemy and you cannot let them disappear. And also, if they purge you from your Giant and your Resilience, or your Everlasting Spirit, my bad, you're going to suffer the consequences because you're going to die much faster than you think. However, this requires your enemy to actually have a purging ability. The con, I suppose, can also be positioning. If you position yourself in an incorrect way, for example, there are many steps and there are many slopes around the area, you're going to be outranged by a bow or any ranged fighter for that matter. So onto the pros. You deal tons and tons of damage. You can stick to your target pretty well if they don't know what they're doing and if they're not that ranged. Your Giant and your Everlasting Spirit are going to be great help. And also, you have Fire Breath, which can also deal magic damage. It is over 3 seconds, but it helps with that extra bit of poke. Another pro is that I personally love the animations in it, and it is absolutely fantastic to play. The W is just so well thought out. The E is amazing, even though you are stunned for a second before activating it. It's not that big of a deal because you're going to be pretty resilient in the fight. Plus, you can also just throw a poison potion and your enemy's going to die much quicker than you'd think. But now, the treasure that I have been saving for the very end. Let's go to first place. So in first place, we have a build that I have literally not heard of until I came up with the idea to do this video. And this is the dual swords build. Starting off with your helmet, you're gonna go Hunter Hood with the 3rd ability and the 2nd passive. You're gonna go Merc Jacket for your chest piece with your 3rd ability and your 2nd passive. And for your shoes, you're going to go Soldier Boots with your 2nd ability for that extra bit of health and the 2nd passive. For the dual swords themselves, they can literally not be easier. You're gonna go with the 1st Q, 1st W, and the 1st passive. And of course, paired with a poison potion, a beef stew, and a Thetford cape. The strat for this build literally could not get any simpler. You're gonna want to start with your Q, which will apply 1 heroic charge, immediately followed by your W, and make sure all 3 of those strikes actually hit the target. Because if you have a heroic charge on you, your W, instead of dealing 122 damage 3 times, will deal 184 damage 3 times to the target. You're going to want to follow this immediately by your E, and that is literally your rotation. Q into your W into your E. You can also do E into a Q, into a W, but whichever you choose. All of those will do the exact same damage. So the beauty of this build is that the pros heavily outweigh the cons, the only con being positioning. If you're going to be stuck in a place with a lot of ramps and a lot of places where you're not exactly in the line of sight of the enemy, if they are going to use a crossbow or if they're going to use any sort of ranged weapon, they're going to outdamage you because you have to be up close and personal. Therefore, you have to choose your position wisely. The first pro of this build is that it is very mobile. Your W and E are both mobility spells that deal tons of damage, and you are going to be unbeatable if you actually know how to utilize those spells. For the boots, I chose Rejuvenating Sprint because you're going to want to have to heal up a little bit if you're going to take some serious damage. And also, your Retaliate and your Bloodlust are going to come in very handy because your Retaliate literally reflects your damage, while your Bloodlust literally heals you for every single auto attack you do. So it's just a win-win situation. And also something that I forgot to add in the strats section of this build is that your E, once you use it, will give you a 50% attack speed bonus, and it will increase your auto attack damage by 100% for 3 seconds. So after using that E, be sure to land some auto attacks in that 3 seconds, and use your Bloodlust, and use your Retaliate, because you are going to outdamage your opponent and heal tons of health through that. And the reason that this build is number 1 is because it is so extremely fun to use, even more so than the Claymore because of the W and the E. I personally love melee weapons, and I personally love this build because it is so mobile and it deals so much damage. The first corrupted dungeon I did with this build, I was like, holy shit, this is something else. And it truly is. Like this build I'm pretty sure was tailored to me, and I think is going to be tailored to you too if you enjoy melee fights. But yeah, this is my corrupted dungeon top 5 tier. This is 10. Top 5 tier list on your screen right now. 5th place being the One-Handed Spear, 4th place being the Bow, 3rd place being the Deathgivers, 2nd place being the Claymore, and the 1st place being the Dual Swords. So if you guys took anything from this video, please be sure to utilize it in your corrupted dungeons because it might help you a lot, especially if you like melee. Please be sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to follow me on my Albion journey and you want more tips and tricks about how to play this game, as I am trying to figure it out myself as well. And I'm going to be here giving you guys content, and I'm going to be here giving you guys ideas at the same time when I'm learning this game. But yeah, until next Tuesday, I will wish you guys farewell, and I will wish you guys an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.